Welcome back.
So now we're going to be talking about how to write linear equations with a slope and a point. And the big thing on here, the big formula that we need to use is called the point slope formula. We use it when we have a slope and a point. So the point slope formula looks like this: y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Where the y1 and the x1 come from the point and the m is the slope, the regular x and regular y stay in the equation. So it's going to be easiest for me to show you with an example. Let's go through this one. So let's say that it has to go through the point 2, 3, and it has a slope of 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label these so I know exactly where I'm supposed to plug them into the formula. I know this is x, this is y, and this is m. And because this is coming from the point, I'm going to call x1 and y1. All right, so now I'm going to plug it into that point slope formula that's right above it. So I'm going to say y, just because that regular y stays in the equation, minus y1, which would give me 3, equals your slope, which is 2, and then x minus your x1, which is 2. All right, so from here, what we're going to do is convert this to slope-intercept form. And well, the way we're going to do that is by simplifying and distributing the slope and then solving for y. So when we distribute the slope, we're going to end up with y minus 3 equals 2x, because 2 times x is 2x, and then 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, so minus 4. Okay, so we're almost in that slope-intercept form, but we want to get the y by itself. The way we get the y by itself is by adding 3 to both sides, because the y right now is subtracting, so we have to add, which would give me y equals 2x minus 1, because negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. And that's my slope-intercept form. Okay, awesome. So, like in the last video, we can't get away with it that easily. We're going to also convert it to standard form. To convert this one to standard form, we've got to get the x and the y in the same spot, or in the same side, which means I'm going to subtract the 2x from each side. We end up with negative 2x plus y equals negative 1. Standard form really doesn't like negatives in the front, so to get rid of the negative, I'm going to multiply everything by negative 1. Negative 2 times negative 1 gives me a positive 2, so this just turns to 2x. Y times negative 1 gives me a negative y. I could also write negative 1y, but it doesn't really matter. And then negative 1 times negative 1 on the right side would give me just a positive 1. And this is my standard form. Okay, so that's how I do it with a point and a slope, but let's go through a couple more examples. So let's say that we want to go through the point 4 comma negative 1, and the slope is 1/2. Okay, once again, I'm going to start by just labeling these x1, y1, and then m, so we can plug them into that formula. I'm going to write the formula down again. It's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So let's just replace what we need to. We're going to say y minus my y1 is negative 1. I'm going to put that in parentheses just so I can kind of separate those two negative signs. Equals my m. Okay, well, m is 1/2, and then x minus x1, which is 4. Okay, so I'm going to start by distributing the 1/2. I'm also going to simplify the left side, because y minus negative 1, when you see two negatives right next to each other, I can change it to a positive. So I can say y plus 1 right here. And then when we distribute the 1/2, we've got 1/2 times x, which would give me 1/2 x. And then 1/2 times negative 4 would give me negative 2. Okay, once again, we're really close to slope-intercept form. We just have to get the y by itself by subtracting 1 from each side. We subtract the 1 because now the 1 is adding to the y. So to get rid of it, we subtract it. We'd have y equals 1/2 x minus 3. And that's our slope-intercept form. Okay, to convert that to standard form, what we're going to do is get the x on the same side as the y by subtracting 1/2 x from each side. So now I've got negative 1 half x plus y equals negative 3. Standard form really likes its rules, so we've got to get rid of the fraction and the negative. To do that, we're going to multiply everything by negative 2. The negative to get rid of the negative, the 2 to get rid of the bottom. All right, so that leaves me with negative 1 half times negative 2 gives me just a 1x. I can just write x right there. Negative 2 times y would give me negative 2y. And then negative 3 times negative 2 would give me a positive 6. So there is my standard form. Okay, so now let's go through a like a special case example. Let's say that we want to go through the point negative 3 comma negative 5, and we want the slope to be undefined. So if you remember, an undefined slope is a straight up and down vertical line. Okay, and in one of the last videos we talked about when the slope is undefined, the equation doesn't have a y in it. It automatically is just an x equals equation, which makes it really easy to do this, mostly because what we can do from there is look at our point. We know that the negative 3 is the x and the negative 5 is the y. If I know my equation can only have x's in it, then it has to be x equals whatever the x point is. So it has to be x equals negative 3. And that's my answer. That's my slope-intercept form, and it's my standard form because of that special case scenario. If, bonus example, if I just had a straight vertical line, let's say like instead of it being an undefined slope, it wanted a slope of 0, a straight vertical or a straight horizontal line would have that slope of 0. And instead of being x equals the number, it would just be y equals whatever the number of the y portion of the point is. So like if it was the same point, it would be y equals negative 5. That would be my equation. Okay, last example. So let's say we want to go through point negative 5, 2, and we want the slope to be negative 3 over 4. Okay, so once again, we're going to start with that point slope formula, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Oh, I didn't label, so sorry, let's label. This is my x, this is my y, and this is my m. This would be x1 and y1. Okay, so now we can just plug in what we know. We're going to say y minus my y1, which is 2, equals my slope, which is the negative 3 over 4, and then x minus my x1, which is negative 5. I put that in parentheses just to separate the negatives a little bit. Okay, so on here, what we're going to do is start by simplifying the two negatives right next to each other. I'm going to actually just do this. I'm going to make it a big positive because two negatives make a positive. And now I can distribute. So now I have y minus 2 equals negative 3/4 x, because negative 3/4 times x is just negative 3/4 x. And the negative 3/4 times 5 gives me negative 15 over 4. Okay, and now we still want to get into slope-intercept form. So we want to get that y by itself, which means we've got to add 2 to both sides, which would give us y equals negative 3/4 x, and then negative 15 over 4 plus 2. The way that I like to think about this, you can do this in a calculator, but the way that I like to think about this is I change this 2 in my brain to 8 over 4, and then I can say negative 15 plus 8, which is a negative 7, so I know that this would be negative 7 over 4. And there's your slope-intercept form. Now, and that slope-intercept form is totally cool, even with all of the fractions that it has. Okay, let's just convert this to standard form now. So to get it to standard form, we have to get the x and the y on the same side. So I'm going to add 3/4 x to each side. So I've got 3 over 4x plus y equals negative 7 over 4. I don't like the fractions. In this case, we have two fractions, and we haven't had two fractions in a second. So they both have the same denominator, which um, makes it really easy because to get rid of the one denominator, to get rid of a denominator, we'd have to multiply by the denominator. So what we're going to do is just multiply everything by 4, and it should get rid of both of those denominators because they're the same. So 3/4 times 4 is just 3, so it's going to be 3x. And then y times 4 gives me 4y. And then -7/4 times 4, the 4's cancel out like we said that it would, and then we get the -7. So this is my standard form of that line.